So good morning, everybody. Hello, I'm Abby Mosier, and I'm the founder and executive director of Tomorrow's Rainbow. And I also get to be the chair of the Coral Springs Coconut Creek Regional Chamber for Good. We're going to go around the Zoom room. I'll call your name. If you can please just share your name as well as your business. There'll be time at the end for announcements and things. So if we can just, we have a big presentation. So hopefully we'll get through this part quickly. So I'm just going to start on my screen and we'll start with Becky.
Hello, everyone. My name is Becky Case. I am the Member Services Coordinator for the best chamber in town, the Coral Springs Coconut Creek Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Fantastic. Wayne.
Good morning, everyone. I'll second that what Becky said. I'm Wayne Toby. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Coconut Creek.
Great. Jonathan.
Hello, my name is Loretta Masipo. I'm the President and CEO of Rise as One.
Fantastic.
And let me just follow up. I just wanted to clarify because I want to make sure that we know what Jonathan does. Rise as One is a business that helps with disability accessibility issues around the city, and we're so happy to have you join the chamber. All right.
Oh, that's awesome. Great, Jonathan. Cindy.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Cindy Breed, CEO of the greatest chamber in Broward County and maybe in the state.
We agree. Probably the world. Marilyn.
Hi, good morning. I'm Marilyn Frisch, and I'm representing the Women's Club of Coconut Creek.
Hey, and Bernie.
Bernie Moyle, the president of the Country Club of Coral Springs.
Fantastic. Nicole.
Hi, I'm Nicole Cumberbatch, or Nicole me, correct? I'm the only Nicole on here. I just came on.
There's two.
Oh.
I'm Nicole Willis. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good morning. My name is Nicole Willis, and I'm the Career Services Advisor at Atlantic Technical College and Technical High School in Coconut Creek.
George.
Good morning, everyone. I'm George Gadson. I'm a Senior Business Growth Specialist at the SBDC at Florida Atlantic University. Glad to be here.
Fantastic. And Commissioner Sandra Welsh.
Hi, good morning. Sandra Welch, Commissioner in one of two best cities in the state of Florida, Coconut Creek.
And Shar. You're on mute, Shar.
Thank you for that reminder. Good morning. My name is Sharinas Davis. I go by Shar. I am the newest team member to the Greatest Chamber, and I'm excited to be here. My role will be the Executive Vice President.
Great. Rafael.
Unmuting. There you go. Good morning, Abby and everyone. Thank you for having us. Rafael Cruz. I'm George's sidekick over at the SBDC at Florida Atlantic University.
Great. And welcome, Representative Christine Huntowski.
Hi, Abby. I'm Christine Huntowski, and I'm the state representative for District 96. That includes Coconut Creek, parts of Coral Springs, parts of Margate, and Parkland.
Fantastic. Thank you. Jacqueline.
Good morning. I'm Jacqueline Jimenez. I am the author of How to Get Television News Coverage. It's easier than you might think. And I am a television news media and social media coverage consultant.
Great.
Here in based in Coral Springs.
And Andrea.
Morning, everyone. It appears I'm having video problems. I'm Andrea Jacobs, chair of this wonderful chamber and managing partner with Brodsky Jacobs Law Firm in Coral Springs.
Great. And Tracy.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Tracy Latome, Seminole Casino, Coconut Creek.
And the other Nicole.
Hi, Nicole Cumberbatch. I'm owner of NGC Consulting, which is the small business consulting firm, and owner of the Motherhood Village.
Great. And Diana?
Hi, good morning. I am Diana Scarpeta. I am with the City of Coral Springs Office of Economic Development. Thank you.
Cheryl.
Good morning. I'm working on my video here. So my name's Cheryl Ferguson, and I'm a mortgage loan originator with Residential Savings. I'm new to that business. I've been a licensed psychologist since 2001, but I'm also adding mortgages and mortgage origination to my portfolio. I'm happy to be here. This is my first chamber meeting.
Welcome. You.
Hi, good morning. I am Yu Subra from the Economic Development Office in City of Coral Springs.
And Christy?
Good morning, Christy Bartlett. I'm the Director of Economic Development for the City of Coral Springs.
And Dancy doesn't have her microphone available, so I hope that I do okay with her name. Dancy Quezada Guzman, and she's the Administrative Assistant of Retirement Council. So welcome. And we have Becca.
Hi, Becca Moyle, Country Club of Coral Springs.
And I think we have a phone number there, and if that's you, we'd love for you to introduce yourself. I'm wondering if, no, is that Tracy? Maybe no, Tracy over there. Okay, well, we will go ahead and move on. I wanted to introduce our presenting sponsor, although I don't see her here right now, so I will share that our presenting sponsor is Bluestream. And Linda Richardson is the marketing director of Bluestream. She is also part of the committee for Chamber for Good. So if Linda comes on, maybe we can have her at the end of the presentation. Does that sound good, Becky?
Sounds good.
Okay, fantastic. And I'm really pleased to welcome our advocate sponsor, the City of Coconut Creek. We have Wayne Toby, who's the Director of Parks and Recreations. So we'll give Wayne a couple minutes to say hello and share what's going on in the City of Coconut Creek Parks and Rec.
Good morning again, and thank you for having me. Yes, a couple updates. I just want to give you some events that we have coming up that you may be interested in. We have a movie in the park, Aladdin, that's going to be on Friday, July 23rd at Sable Pines Park. That starts at 8:30. We're going to do one the very next night, Saturday, at George S. Gerber Memorial Park, and that's going to be at 8:30. And once again, that movie's Aladdin. Then the following week, towards the end of the month, we have a Hot Rods and Hot Dogs car show. And that's going to be held at the community center. It's on Sunday, July 25th. It's from 9 to 1. And then at the end of the week, at the end of the month, Friday, July 30th, we're starting our homegrown concert summer series. And we are going to have a police tribute band, Zendetta, and they're going to be performing at Sable Pines Park. They start at 6:30. Those are just some of the activities that we have coming up. Just keep an eye at the website, visit coconutcreek.net, and you'll see some of the events and programs and activities that we are offering. But I do want to thank you.
That's so awesome. I hope I see everybody at the police tribute band. That sounds fantastic.
Yes.
We have another advocate sponsor, which is Cleveland Clinic. They were unable to join us today, but I know that you'll join me in extending our gratitude for their generosity and helping us to move the Chamber for Good forward. So now I'd like to welcome our panelists of guest speakers from FAU's Small Business Development Center. We have consultants Rafael Cruz and George Gadson. We'll start with Rafael. Rafael, can you introduce yourself to the group?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Abby and Cindy and everybody else on the call. Okay, don't want to go through everybody's name, but thank you, everyone and esteemed officials, okay, for having us here. All right, again, Rafael Cruz. I'm an executive consultant with the Small Business Development Center at Florida Atlantic University. The SBDC, for those of you that don't know, okay, is a program of the SBA, the Small Business Administration. So we are federally funded, okay, but we're also a partnership, right? So our local host is Florida Atlantic University, and they also invest in the program to provide the services that we provide, okay, to the greater community that we serve. Okay, and that community is Broward County and Palm Beach County. So our center, our regional center, covers Palm Beach and Broward counties. Right, there you go.
Good morning, everyone. George Gadson. As Rafael mentioned to you, I'm with the Florida SBDC at Florida Atlantic University. My role there is a senior business consultant. I'm a former banker, and I bring over 20 plus years of experience to the table as a former banker. Additionally, while in banking, I embarked several years ago, over 20 something years ago, on looking at art as a means of relaxation. And I have a very successful art and design company. And Rafael, when he was the regional director for 15 plus years, he invited me to join SBDC to use both sides of my brain. And he and I formed a program at SBDC called the Creative Entrepreneur Development Program. And hopefully we'll be able to share a bit more of that with you. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. I apologize. I had a little technology issue, but I am back. So we're going to ask our panel some questions so that they can help you learn more about the exceptional and free services provided by FAU Small Business Development Center. So the first question I have, and Rafael and George, you guys can decide who's going to take which question, but the first one I have specifically are, what are some of the services that are offered?
Rafael, I'll let you, and then we can just sort of go
All right,
back
yeah.
and forth. How about that?
Okay, again, what I like to tell people is that the Small Business Development Center is really a boutique consulting firm that's prepaid by your tax dollars. All right, so I'll say that again. A boutique consulting firm prepaid by your tax dollars, because we don't say it's free, because it's not. Somebody paid for it, you already paid for it, you just prepaid it. Right, so you can either use it or you don't use it, right? So, but what the services we provide are basically cradle to grave services for small businesses. So if somebody wants to start a business, I like to tell people that we work with serious people that want to start businesses and business owners. So what happens is somebody has an idea and they want to start a business. We help them through business planning, feasibility, those levels in the starting phase, right? And then the majority of the folks that we work with, though, are like yourselves, that are already existing business owners, have businesses, and you're at a point, you say, you know what, I want to grow the business, or something's happening, I want to pivot the business, things like that. And that's what we help businesses also. And strategic planning, big area. Access to capital is a big area, all right, where you need some capital to grow the business, okay? And we both work on both sides of capital, the debt side and the equity side. So we have contacts and networks in both areas. On the debt side of capital, that means loans and things like that. On the equity side, what's commonly known as venture capital, but not necessarily that much of it down here in South Florida, right? And then there's marketing, of course, and then the social media presence, and then there's, you know, looking at HR things. Now, the things that we don't do, okay, so we pretty much help a business throughout. We have a team, okay, quite a large team of experts that cover government contracting, international trade, okay, and all these other things that help a business, okay, expand its market. So government contracting, how do you first get your first government contract, or how do you expand and get into higher levels of government contract with the state or with the federal government? Okay, Department of Defense, Department of Transportation, those kind of things. International trade, you exporting. How do you export? We have a special partnership, right, with Commerce and the DEO of Florida, okay, Department of Economic Opportunity, where we actually put together, they brought us in, and we put together for select businesses that are manufacturers based in Florida, right? Have to be manufacturers based in Florida, an export marketing plan, right? That's a full plan that looks at various countries that you can sell your products in. So we do a variety of things. Now, one of the things I'd like to touch on, because we're unique in it, okay, is that the Small Business Development Center here at FAU, okay, because of the role that I had and that George has in it, we help not-for-profits in a way that other centers don't. Okay, so that's something that we started doing a long time ago, before it was hip, before everybody said, oh wow, not-for-profits are just like businesses, except they're not profit-driven, right? So we work with not-for-profits, select not-for-profits, okay, to help them develop. Now, what you call in the business side growth and things like that, they call it a not-for-profit side capacity building, okay? But it winds up being the same kind of things, right? And we developed an arts program specifically to the creative economy. Creative economy is very important in South Florida. You know, music, culture, movies, those kind of things. So we created the Creative Entrepreneur Development Program, and we were been working with Broward County for going on longer than 15 years, and we've trained over 900. We're closing in on 1,000 artists that we have trained. George and I have trained over the years, okay, in partnership with the county. So that's just a nutshell of some of the things that the SBDC does.
Great.
Abby,
Abby,
you're
you're
on
on
mute.
mute.
Sorry, I had goats in the background. I didn't want you to hear them. In your experience, what are the most beneficial services and resources for businesses that yields the most significant impact? And so we'd like to ask for the top 3, and then knowing that we both have nonprofits and private businesses joining us today, can you outline the top 3 for the nonprofits and then the private businesses, and is there overlap?
If I may, I think from the nonprofit perspective, the 3 top things that I think are critical, and before I state what those are, as Rafael referenced, nonprofits and for-profits we work with. And one of the messages that we always communicate to our nonprofit clients is that the only difference between you and a for-profit company is the designation provided to you by the Internal Revenue Service. So hence you must look at your nonprofit as a business and run it as a business. So that being said, the 3 top areas that I think every nonprofit should make sure is in place. One being a strategic plan, similar, of course, we know to a business plan, so that they have some direction as far as where the organization, they'd like for the organization to go, and they have goals, objectives, and measurable outcomes, etc. The second one is a marketing and branding initiative, if you will. Just because you build it, it doesn't mean that they will come. Okay, so hence, having that marketing plan in place is critical so that the nonprofit, can get the word out in the various means with Ms. Jacqueline and be able to let the world know and your target audience know specifically what you do as a not-for-profit. And then thirdly, fund development. Having a strategy where you actually will do fundraising. At the same time, when we consult with our clients, we always try to help them look at other ways in which they can generate revenue. Aside from donors, individual donors or corporate donors, but we try to say, okay, think in terms of what product or service you offer that you can monetize, and it's yours and you own it. So therefore, your pie chart as far as source of funding is different. You're not totally reliant on grants, but rather you have a variety, a mixture of revenue. So those are the 3 top areas I believe that are important to nonprofits. It's a strategic plan, marketing, and a funding, fund development strategy.
Now, Abby, just to piggyback off of what George said, is exactly the same for regular business. Okay, it's going to be strategic or overall plan. Okay, it's going to be communication, marketing, branding. Okay, getting the word out, getting customers, and then it's going to be we call it funding in the not-for-profit world. We call it access to capital, right? How's the money flowing in so you can continue to grow? But here's where George and I now do our thing, right? And I'm gonna push back on the question. Okay, I'm going to push back on that question because sometimes you can ask a question and not get the right answer. Okay, because the question was, what are the top 3 services we provide? Well, we don't know what the top 3 services until we do an assessment.
Correct.
Right. We have to check you out first. That's like going into a hospital saying, what's the best type of surgery that you do, right? So we don't know if I need heart surgery, I need heart surgery, right? Not knee surgery. So what we want to do is first things first. I mean, those are the things that all businesses, all not-for-profits have to work in. But the first initial service that we provide is a look at the business, right? To see what are the priority things that you need, because you might need some things before other things. But those in general are the services that in general businesses and not-for-profits, there's a lot of overlap there, as you heard, okay? But again, we go push back on that question and say, well, actually the first service that everybody needs is a sit-down assessment, right? Looking at the business and saying, hey, what's really happening here? What are the key things? Okay, who are the key players, right? How's the team look? And then you begin to offer the services around that, what you see there. Because remember, each of you and each of your organizations are very, very unique. Okay, so while everybody needs to eat right and exercise, right, we all do it in different ways. Okay, so that's just the question. Okay.
Fantastic, thank you. What is the most significant project that you've ever worked on, and what made it important?
Rafael, you want to share that, and then I can.
We can now. We have some success stories up on our website that we can talk about, right? But we are not allowed to talk specifically about any business because of our rules of confidentiality. So we might as well let you know that now. Very important for you to understand. When you work with us, we don't discuss that we've worked with you unless you give us written permission.
Right. So give me 1 second here.
So while he's adjusting that, he mentioned they're on our homepage on success stories, and I believe that one particular success story is still there. If you go to our homepage, down below, there's a young lady and her daughter. They're looking at a product. That particular client, and again, we're sharing this because we have her permission, but she provides after-school programming, if you will, to the STEM. Most of you are familiar with that: the science, technology, engineering, math, etc., and the A part as well with arts. And when COVID came about, it just, of course, obviously she couldn't go into the schools anymore. So she consulted with me, and long story short, she pivoted. And when she did, she says, okay, I'm going to do this online product, and hence have it available so that parents that I'm currently working with, but also parents over in Wisconsin or whomever, wherever they might be, can have access to it. And her business took off. So this is a success story in terms of how one can take a situation and pivot, rethink how you're going to produce or present, if you will, your product or services. And she was very successful.
Fantastic. So I will, because they do have a confidentiality policy, but I will say that Tomorrow's Rainbow has been a beneficiary of these services. We are smack dab in the middle of a marketing rebranding project, and so you are going to see the impact of that. But I will just share that the short term of is that we started with one clinical team member, and we now have 3 clinical team members, and we aren't complete with the program yet. So we are growing by leaps and bounds, and it is solely from the work that we're doing with the SBDC. So so I wanted to share that success story as well. What are some of the common mistakes and downfalls that you see?
Oh boy, okay. Can you hear me, Abby?
The common mistakes and downfalls.
Can you hear me?
We can, it's a little bit,
Yeah. It's
a little bit low?
Little bit low, yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I apologize because I had one of those headphones and now I have to use the computer speaker. So let me just make sure. All right, microphone, same system. Can you hear me better?
No, maybe lean into your computer just a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so my head is going to get really big now. Okay, folks? All right.
Everybody will turn their volume up.
So some common mistakes, because we are talking about not-for-profits. All right, I'll talk about not-for-profit common mistakes. Right, the big thing that happens is, and this is the general story of a not-for-profit. Right, you see a person that cares about the community or cares about something. They see a need, and they say, you know what, I'm going to fill that need. I'm going to bring some resources together, some friends and families, whatever it is, a little bit of money. And I'm going to fill that need, whatever it is. I'm going to feed whoever I need to feed. I'm going to take care of whoever I'm going to take care of. I'm going to fill this need, right? And that becomes the mission, okay? And then they say, wow, you know, we can do more. We can help more people if we only had a little bit more resources. So then they go out hunting for the resources, right? And they generally start without a plan. They start really focused on the mission. So that's one of the things. In the early stages, heavy focus on the mission without focusing on the organization that can support impacting the mission. So what do you need to build around, okay, what you're doing so that you can actually get done the mission that you're trying to do, right? That's number one. Then what you'll see a lot, and this is a big one, right? You see established not-for-profits, been around for a while. You got their act together, right? But something political changes, right? Political wind's always changing, right? Now there's not a lot of money for what I used to do. There's money for some other things. So we start writing grants for those other things without thinking, are they good for us and for our mission and our team? So that's called mission creep, right? You start to spread yourself too thin. So you start chasing dollars that are not necessarily dollars that you should chase because you don't have that strategic plan. You don't have that overall long-term outlook, right? You haven't sat down with your team, okay? Yet you didn't assess whether, you know what, getting into environmental climate change is not something that we do or have done. Is it something that's important? Yes. But is it something that we're able to do? No, but they're giving a lot of money for that. So let's just go get that $500,000 grant and we'll figure a program out, right? So, and that's another big mistake when you start to mission creep out, okay? And you start to spread your people too thin, you spread the organization too thin. So an organization that was tight and focused, right, that was really doing good work in this area, now becomes an organization that's spread out thin and winds up doing mediocre work at best in a lot of different areas. And some of those areas they're not really, really prepared to do. And the other thing is in the not-for-profit world that we see often, okay, two things quickly is the team, okay? Just because the people are mission-based doesn't mean you can overwork them, right? They're still human beings. You have to, work with your team and build your team as you go. And then, of course, the last and final thing is looking at the financials, right? The cash flow. Where's the money coming from? Who is it coming from? How do we keep it coming? And what are we doing with it when it gets here? All right. How are we leveraging those funds and making sure that each dollar that comes in is used conscientiously, okay, and within the means of our mission, and we're getting as much mission done as possible. So those are some key overall errors that we see in the not-for-profit world. Okay, there's a lot of others, but those are some key ones. George, you might want to jump in on that.
And on the for-profit side, I would say one of the things that we see, particularly with startups, and that is lack of focus in terms of a target market. They have the market is so general. So I use the analogy with our clients to say, okay, let's go to a shooting range, and you're going to do practice target shooting, and you bring in a rifle with you, and you shoot the rifle, and pellets go everywhere, and you really don't come close to target at all. So the more that you identify who your client is in terms of demographics, as far as economics, income, geographical location, ethnicity, all of those things in terms of even gender, then you are much more focused and much more targeted. At the same time, I share with the clients, you got the demographics down. Now it's important to understand the psychographics. The psychographics meaning, how does your target client think? What behaviors do they demonstrate? And I'll use the example that Mr. Wayne just announced about the car show. If you have a business and you're selling car parts for high performance cars, then that's a psychology, the psychographics of those types of individuals is completely different than someone who is not into that. So if you have a product or service and you want to reach that customer, then you need to show up for Wayne's event as a vendor or what have you, because that's where now your demographics that you are trying to reach, your target market you're trying to reach, now their psychology, the psychographics of that profile customer, they will show up at an event either with their car or their car enthusiasts, and they will become participants. So sometimes businesses fail to take that approach in terms of making certain that they're targeted and they're focused. The other thing is when, and I share with clients that the business plan should figuratively be written in pencil. so that as the environment changes, when you do these environmental scan, you do the SWOT analysis, you do this pest analysis, where you evaluate what's happening politically, what's happening economically, what's happening socially, and of course with technology, then revisit how you are structured so that you can position yourself to adapt to those changes. Sometimes some business owners say, well, this is how we've always done it, and they're stuck in their ways, et cetera. And ultimately, one can become a dinosaur. So those are some of there are many others, but those are some of the points that, we wanted to share with you.
Thank you. So we talked about that the services are funded through our taxes, so prepaid, so to speak. Are there any services that are actually fee for service to the client, or are all of the services funded through our tax dollars and we've actually already paid for them?
There's nothing that we do for our one-on-one clients that they write us a check for.
Yeah, the consulting is it's no cost to you.
No cost.
Now, we do have events sometimes that we will charge for because we're in partnership with other groups and things like that, or we'll need them to raise what's called match dollars, and some of you understand that, matching dollars for your thing, because we are that type of organization. But those are few and far between, and even those, okay, we keep them very competitive. Now, we're not allowed to compete with the open market. Okay, but because of our thing, we try to bring certain types of training to business owners and things like that, and workshops and things. And every once in a while, we'll have to charge for some of those. But one-on-one consulting is never charged for. We cannot charge for it. We don't charge for it. So if anybody ever tells you that they're an SBDC and they charge you, they're not an SBDC.
Exactly.
You know that.
So that, I mean, it's phenomenal. I never even knew that this was available, and then to find out that it was going to be no additional cost to the nonprofit. I can't wait for our next project. That's all I'm saying. So what are some of the distinctions that you come across when you're assisting nonprofits and for-profits? Are there some that remain the same across, or what do you see when you're working with both of those type businesses?
All right, I'll start off, George, and then you can jump in on that. Okay, first things first. I mean, for profit. I mean, it's profit driven. End of story, right? If you're not focused on the profit, then you're just not focused. You're not doing what you're supposed to do, right? So some people get into business thinking it's about their own, personal development. They think it's about whatever it is, but it's about profit, right? It's about making money for the owners and the shareholders. That's ultimately what a for-profit business is about, right? Now, a not-for-profit business, even though we said you should look at it as a for-profit business, what we mean by that is you take the best of the for-profit world and you apply it to the not-for-profit, but you do not lose what makes you a not-for-profit. What is that? It's a commitment and a passion for a mission that serves a greater good, okay? So it's a commitment and a passion for a mission that serves a greater good, okay? And that's a huge distinction. That's a big, big distinction, because when you're working with a group of not-for-profit people, while we talk about all these business things, it's become very common now to talk about branding and this, that, and the other, right? We don't say that the expectation is less, okay? But we understand that the driving force behind it is different, okay? So what keeps your people coming to work, okay, every day in a not-for-profit may not necessarily be those high salaries you're giving, okay? And I'm joking, right? Because of the not-for-profit, nobody's getting rich, right? This is, you don't get into politics because it's the easiest thing to do. You get, it's a calling, you don't run a chamber because, hey, that's what you dreamt about doing when you were young. No, you believe in the mission, right? So if you're taking your time and you're the chair of a chamber, which is a not-for-profit, right? And you're a politician, or you're a commissioner, or you're something like that. These are all not-for-profit, right? Governments and things like that. And you get involved with, why? Because you've decided I have a set of skills, okay? And I have access to tools and resources, okay? And I really believe in this mission. I want to help people. I'm at a point in my career when I want to give back. And you serve and you give your time, right? That's a not-for-profit world. In the for-profit world, it's about profit all the time. It's mission-driven. It's mission-driven, but notice that recently a lot of for-profit companies have taken the best from the not-for-profit world and they brought it into their culture, all right? So you have places like Google, you have places like Apple, all right, that have taken mission, passion, great place to work, love for what you do, and incorporated those things. Not-for-profits own that. You invented that, right? And then the for-profit people got smart and say, wait a minute, you know, we can use that over here and keep people really engaged. We never used to talk about engaged employees. Now all of a sudden we have engagement surveys, and we want to make sure they're happy. And do you have a best friend at work? And how many times you eat lunch at work with your best friend to see if they're engaged and they're happy at work, right? That was a not-for-profit thing, right? But they took it and said, hey, we can use this. Now what we're doing is we're just saying, well, you know what? All those financial things and the branding and all, let's use it in the not-for-profit world, okay? So that both can be elevated. Both worlds that we're dealing with can be elevated, okay, George?
I think actually, Rafael, you pretty much covered, you know, mostly everything in terms of the distinctions and similarities. I will add, though, based upon a client I met with yesterday who has a for-profit consulting business, and she's working with mainly small minority-owned businesses who really can't afford her services. And so she met with me to find out my thoughts about crowdfunding. And I immediately told her that this would not work for her because she's not a not-for-profit. And typically crowdfunding, because of all the unfortunate situations that have taken place with money being falsely raised, her putting her for-profit business out there saying, give me money so that I can help those who can't afford to pay me, that just wouldn't work. So hence I shared with her that why not look for those nonprofits who have the client base you wish to serve and develop a relationship with that not-for-profit, and then go look for a grant of some sort that brings you in. So just a change of thoughts that the for-profits have to understand that they can't go and solicit monies from individuals because there's no benefit to that corporation or that individual, particularly as it relates to tax advantages.
Fantastic. Okay, so what's the one takeaway for our businesses, so that's our for-profits and our non-for-profits, that you want everyone to keep in mind today, and why should they call you?
Always keep your finger on the pulse. What doesn't get managed doesn't get measured. So constantly looking at your bottom line. I have a brown belt in Six Sigma, and how do you best lean your organization in terms of its processes so that you can make a better mousetrap with less steps and less processes. Continually keep your finger on the pulse, because that's the day we're in now. It's about cutting back and leaning your organization and still being profitable.
Yeah, and that's an internal, right? George is giving you an internal insight, so I'll give you an external insight. We are working here with the chamber today, right? And I like to bring that up because it's a chamber of commerce, a room to do business in, right? That's what chamber of commerce means. Back in the olden days, folks would get together and they'd actually do business in a room, right? So chamber of commerce, right? So what happens is externally, what some people will join, and the head of the chamber will understand this. Those of you that chair the chamber, things like will understand. People will join the chamber and sit back and think, okay, well, what now? Well, what now? Nothing. You need to get to work. If you don't network and you don't meet the right people, and if you're not, and when I say network, when George and I say network, we're talking about network in a different way. We're not talking about drive-by network, where you go to a chamber event and you just give everybody your card and then you leave. That's not networking. Networking is when you come into a room prepared to help other people meet their goals through your skills, through your services. But if you're thinking about you, that perfume has a bad scent and people can smell it a mile away. You need to be thinking about other people. And when you have that perfume on, people are attracted to you because they sense and they can smell that you are there to help them achieve their goals. So if I'm a lawyer, I'm here to help you get something. I'm not here to get new clients. If I have a dry clean, it's about how can I help you look good at your sister's wedding in a month from now? Not, hey, how many shirts can you bring me every week? right? And that's very important because if you're not constantly focused on the marketplace externally, right? So what George is saying, having your thumb on, you need to have your thumb on the pulse of what's happening inside the business, but you need to have your eye and your brain on the marketplace because that's where all financial transactions happen. You spend money inside, you make money outside. So if you're not looking outside and how do we engage new customers, how are we bringing people on, how are we making people's lives better through our products and services, guess what? I'm not sure what you're doing. You know, that's bottom line. So that's a takeaway that we always get.
Fantastic. I'm sorry, I have a fly that's buzzing around. I'm trying not to distract you. So we'd like to take a couple questions regarding today's presentation. So I'm going to turn over to Becky, who's been monitoring the chat, and any questions that we have from the group.
I did see one. Jacqueline asked if the SBDC offers some technical services for business owners needing to help fill out forms for grants that might be available. So many of the business owners failed to fill out these forms correctly, and consequently, they didn't receive the grant. So is that a service that you offer, gentlemen?
That's typically something that we try not to do. And I say this because God forbid that we provided you with the resource and the service to apply for a grant and you didn't get it, then we wouldn't want you to feel that it was because we gave you the wrong guidance on completing the grant application. We will meet with the clients and we'll give them our objective opinion with the caveat that this is not in any way our saying that you're going to get the grant. So that's we have not turned away any client that has reached out to us for help. The good thing about what we do is we sit down and we're just very upfront, and I'm pleased to say that we are the best thing since sliced bread. And when people walk away, they know that George and Rafael and our other consultants have given them the good, the bad, and the ugly. We tell you where the mines might be. We tell you where the wonderful fruit is. So if indeed that's something that you wish to have us do, Ms. Jacqueline, I will, or someone that we will more than happy to sit down and speak with them with the understanding that our giving them our thoughts on how to complete it is in no way saying that they are guaranteed to get the grant.
I think that it was a problem that had come up. I know that Sandy was, not Sandy Welch, but I can't think of Sandy's last name right now, but they've been working on it. That's a problem that's in this, when all these grants were being handed out, it's something that they really need is people, these small businesses are so busy running their businesses that they didn't have all that information. They didn't know where to gather all that information. So trying to be sure that they're ready for the next wave of anything that comes their way was a key component. And so I was looking for people to, refer to them and say, hey, they're helping because that is a big issue.
George, and that to qualify, because I was going to push back on the question, right? Again, okay, because normally there are not grants for businesses. Grants are usually for not-for-profit.
That's correct.
That's one distinction.
That's correct.
Now, if you're talking about the grants like the PPP, loans and the EIDL loans, actually, you look, George and I we're not bragging or anything, folks, but we've been working 16-hour days since the beginning of the pandemic. All right, George, myself, and our team, because we're the right arm of the SBA. So Jacqueline, if you would have called the SBA, they would have sent you to us because we were helping people fill out those forms because we are intimately trained by the SBA. Now, we generally will help people understand because we're also experts at business sustainability, resiliency, and hurricane and disaster preparedness. Okay, both George and I are intimately trained in that, right? So we help people prepare so that after any kind of disaster, you could immediately access whatever comes up your way. So we help people get those packages together of their tax returns, their financial statements, and all those kind of things. So Jacqueline, the answer to your question is yes, right, but, okay? So yes, you could have referred people to us, but, all right? So there you go. That was a very, very good question because that did, one of the critiques of the PPP program was that when the first round came out, it didn't get to the people that actually needed it the most. Okay, and the government, to their credit, corrected that in the second round of PPP. But us alone, between George and I don't know how many millions of dollars, okay, we help process in our community, okay, with businesses and PPP, EIDL, shuttered venue, restaurant revitalization fund. I mean, we're experts in all that stuff. Okay, Jacqueline, it's a very good question.
And when we meet with those clients in that type of scenario, you know, again, we do an assessment based upon what they're bringing before us. We can quickly tell if they have their systems and processes in place. Because what has happened during this pandemic, there have been businesses who come to us, they didn't have the paperwork that they needed, et cetera. So it was an opportunity for us to use as a teaching moment. This is, okay, going forward, if there are other disasters and you're needed to apply for financing or loans, et cetera, make certain that you have records showing that you have, you know, the employees, or you're paying yourself as an employee. You've got a 1099 a person, those things put in place so that now when the SBA asks for those kind of documentation, you've got them. But again, as Rafael said, you know, we won't turn you away. We will just simply tell you what you need to know, and with hopes of you being able to be successful in getting whatever it is you're applying for.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
We do have a couple of other questions in the queue.
Becky, I just want to let you know, I got a message, I think it was direct to me from Bernie, okay? And it was a question that says, how do you differentiate between mission creep and mission pivot? Okay, how do you differentiate between mission creep and mission pivot? The question, Bernie, okay? Almost a trick question there, right? Mission creep is negative, it's something you don't want to do, right? It's when you spread yourself too thin. Mission pivot is when you do it yourself. Right? You realize we were going in this direction, this was our mission, and now we're choosing, because based on the environment, based on what our board wants, based on a lot of different things that we've assessed, we're going to pivot and go now in this direction, right? Two different things. Mission creep is something that happens without you thinking about it, and it winds up being bad. Mission pivot is something strategic. It's something thoughtful, okay, that you do with yourself and your team and your board. Okay, you decide the new direction to go in purposefully, not because you're chasing dollars or just chasing ideas and things like that. So that's the big two differences there. I hope I answered the question, Brian.
I just wanted that to be discussed because I needed people to hear it. Thank you.
Go.
Excellent. And then, you know what's funny is that he also sent me that one, and that was also the question that was next out of my mouth. So we got it covered. Excellent. I do have one more question. And it's essentially to really dig into and distinguish the difference between nonprofits and for-profits, as well as the distinction and how they are the same.
Well, the distinction, again, is your designation by the Internal Revenue Service, first and foremost, which then allows you to be able to go to, let's say, XYZ Corporation and have them maybe sponsor a gala or fundraise or sponsor maybe a walk that you're doing for kids. And again, an individual as well as an individual donor can write a check because they really connect with the mission. If you're helping children who are autistic and maybe the potential donor has a son or daughter who's autistic, they will write your check, and because they're aligned with your mission at the same time, until God willing it would never happen. But if they have an advantage also being able to write that check to a charitable organization, and when they get with their CPA or their accountant, and this applies also with for-profit corporations as well. So that is the distinction there. But the other side of it is they're all the same, because at the end of the day, they must operate as a business so that they are in the black. You know, every monthly reconciliation, they're not losing money. And I love to use, you know, Goodwill, for example, or the Salvation Army. You know, those entities are large nonprofits, but they have a business model where they have a business model that generates revenue that allows them to put money back into the nonprofit to help them fulfill their mission. So they're running it like a business, and they're in the black. So there is that's basically the two things that I see between the not-for-profit and the for-profit. That is foremost. And sometimes individuals think that, well, I'll start a not-for-profit, not realizing that, hey, you're just starting a business, and they think that they don't work as hard as they would if they were to form a for-profit company. Well, hello, I have news for you. You work just as hard, or probably even harder. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, and Becky, another thing too to think about it, and this is counterintuitive. Okay, this is counterintuitive. All right. An ultimate strategic goal of most not-for-profits, right, should be, it isn't, but it should be, to go out of business.
Yes.
Right? Think about that for a minute. The reason is because that means you solved the problem. Right? So whatever the problem that you were working on, feeding the hungry, helping the poor, eradicating homeless, right? Ultimately, a not-for-profit's goal is to not exist because we've solved the problem, right? Most for-profits wouldn't have that type of goal. Okay, they wouldn't have that type of goal, right? So that's a huge distinction, right? To be working towards your own philosophical end, right? Unless you pivot, okay? So but that is what you do. Now, some not-for-profits don't do that, right? They're just working on, the problem keeps growing and they keep growing with it, okay? But that's a major distinction. Again, okay, how you do it. Now, the other distinction is this. In a for-profit world, okay, let's say we're selling a $10,000 unit of whatever it is. I'm selling $10,000 something, okay, a piece of machinery, right? In a not-for-profit world, I want a $10,000 donation. Now we can both have a CRM, right? Customer relation management tool, right? But the difference is, okay, the steps that I take those people through can be similar, have an initial meeting with them, right? Share marketing materials, okay? Discuss the benefits of doing whatever I'm asking them to do. So here it's buying the equipment, here is donating to my not-for-profit. See, so I can use the tools, but our end goal is different. And our purpose for doing it is very different, okay? So where we can structure it the same way, I have 5 steps to bring somebody from unknown to donor and supporter, right? And I have 5 steps for bringing somebody from unknown to closed sale, all right? Now, the also thing is, you have to think about a big thing that you always want to think about in non-for-profit and for-profit world is the idea of transactional, okay, or relationship. Transactional, I sell you the piece of equipment, there you go, that was one transaction, I don't have to worry about you again. Relationship based, okay, means that you give us a $10,000, but then we talk about, okay, can you get you up to the 20,000, or do we get another 10,000 in 10 years? And we want those people to have a relationship with the organization. So those are 2 different strategies. And you have to approach those things in a very, very different way. And we have this common, with for-profit too, are you doing transactional sales or relationship-based sales? But those are some key things that not-for-profits really need to think about, okay, and some key differences, and again, it all comes from not-for-profits are mission-based. They're mission-based, but they have to pay attention to the business. That's it.
The other thing I'd like to add, and I know that those of you that are here know this, but we have some nonprofits that I tell them, you don't own the nonprofit. You may have formed it and you may have been the founder, but at the end of the day, you don't own it. So therefore, you think twice about what you wish to do, how you wish to do it. Yes, you may be looking to go out and buy a building, etc. But at the end of the day, if the building, you're using it for the nonprofit and the paperwork is in the nonprofit's name, if there is any dissolution, of the not-for-profit, that building doesn't belong to you. So understanding that mindset has caused some individuals to change well, maybe I don't want to start the not-for-profit. And then the other part is this, that the board of directors have a fiduciary responsibility to make certain that the executive director or the CEO is fiscally responsible for how the organization is run. Many, many years ago, I was a part of a nonprofit that was in Broward County for years. And unfortunately, there was fiscal mismanagement and the board didn't catch it, but a news reporter did. And long story short, the board didn't do their job. So hence, as a director and a nonprofit starter or founder, the public trust is foremost always in how you operate the not-for-profit. You don't own it. So that is a major distinction from a for-profit corporation.
Thank you so much. We have time for one more quick question. It should be a very easy one. I had Irma Perone from the Perone Group asked if you guys help companies with technological training, such as training on OneDrive or training on some of these technology tools that we use.
We don't usually do a specific training on like a particular like product like that. I mean, in the past we did some QuickBooks, but what happens is the reason we moved out of that space is because, I mean, literally you can get a lot of help on YouTube and things like that. And there's a lot of other organizations that are available, Microsoft itself and, things like that'll help you do that, whether for free or gladly charge you for it. Okay, so that's why we moved out of those spaces, doing, particular training on one technology. And because things change so much, because if we trained you on YouTube, and we'd have to train you on Pinterest, and we have to train you on Facebook, and we did it a while back, but it started getting so much, and other people, get into it. But now what we might be able to do is help you find, okay, we can maybe look around for you if you can't find some stuff, and then refer 3 or more, because we never refer just one. If we can find 3 or more, then we'll refer you 3 or more. Okay, it's a short answer to a quick question.
All right, fantastic. So I just want to announce that the next Chamber for Good, hang on, let me just turn my volume down because I think I have feedback. The next Chamber for Good is October 21st from 9 to 10. Our speaker is Rick Gutterson. He is he's going to be on Zoom because he is in Detroit, Michigan, but he is extremely motivating, inspiring, and is full of knowledge on leadership and running your nonprofit. I was so impressed with him that I actually have him as a personal consultant for the last 6 months, and he's been phenomenal. So please make sure to mark your calendars for October 21st. And I want to thank everybody for coming to today's event. In particular, I want to thank Rafael and George. Not only was your presentation invaluable, but I know that the good that is going to reach out from your presentation, now that you have empowered all of us with this knowledge of the resources that are available. I can't wait to see the successes that everybody achieves from working with the Small Business Development Center. So on behalf of everybody, thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.